皆様こんにちは。ブルームバーグ NEF、ブルームバーグの中の
Bloomberg NEF, Bloomberg Group's NEF is new energy business entity. Today's topic is alternative energy. I have excellent panelists, three of them. I have 25 minutes to share with them to talk about this what's alternative. This week in Madrid, Spain, COP25 is now underway. It's an UN's conference on climate. At the conference, yesterday we heard the news. Japan has won Fossil Award. It's not a great award to win, but why did Japan win that award? Because Japan's targets were considered not so ambitious. That was the factor for that winning of the award. Japan's targets. Before we getting into the details, let me just share with you the background. Let's look at the slide. This is Japan's goal, shown at the center. This shows the power energy mix of Japan. At the left, we show the actual current Japan's energy mix. The center is Japan's government target. What's on the right is a Bloomberg NEF's target. At the center is government goal for 2030. Coal, gas, nuclear, accounting for 20%, 20%, 20%. Renewables also 20%. So evenly divided. About this goal, since I have three excellent panelists, so Mr. Anamizu, Vice President of TEPCO, as the gas energy operator, what do you see? Thank you for introduction. I'm Anamizu from Tokyo Gas. We deal with energy or LNG. I was shocked to see this. 39% went down to 20%. That's the Bloomberg's forecast for the gas proportion. According to my forecast, the coal-fired power generation infrastructure is going to be launched. So 34% of percentage is going to be close to reality. And that's true, I believe. But what about natural gas or LNG and coal-fired power plants? How are they going to operate their business? In terms of per kilowatt hour, this proportion is going to change. So how can we make up such a forecast? It's difficult to make such a forecast, but one is related to policies. How much of renewables is going to be introduced? It depends on government policies and, of course, whether nuclear power plants is going to be reopened or not. And we also need to watch the market trend because, in particular, nowadays, LNG market, as you know, we see the spot prices are declining. It's becoming cheaper, and it's due to many factors. The U.S. LNG projects are being launched, and also China-U.S. trade conflict is another factor. So, due to such market factors, the current factors will determine your choices whether you go to natural gas or gas. So it's difficult to make a forecast in such a mixture of different factors. Thank you. Next, Mr. Onoda. He's the president of JERA. JERA is TEPCO and Chubu Electric Company's company. They are conducting fuel procurement business. They are the largest buyer. They can enjoy the scale benefit of the company size. But looking at Japan, in your capacity, what is your view? I'm Onoda, thank you. I run the company called JERA. In our company, the Japanese government created this energy mix, and it's reasonable, I believe. I say that because Japan relies on imported energy. The 6% is the ratio of self-energy sustainability, self-sufficiency. So Japan must import energy from outside. Therefore, economics environmental performance as well as stable supply all need to be considered as a mix to decide this energy mix, and that's how the government came up with this energy mix forecast. So between 20 to 25% is the percentage bracket that we see of coal, gas, nuclear. Now, looking at Bloomberg's forecast, I believe they looked at the different modes and they compared the benefits. In a sense, looking ahead in 10 years, Japan may end up in this way. I have this concern. But at JERA, we own the facilities that supply half of the energy needs, but we make sure to comply with all the energy regulations and other regulations while improving energy efficiency. And renewables, nuclear power plants reopening are also things that we are looking at so that we become closer to the government's targeted energy mix. Now, JERA has this vision of LNG and renewables to become a renewables and clean energy leader. Toward that end, we make sure that we work to have a good supply chain and introduce renewables. Thank you very much. Before I turn to Mr. Takeuchi, there is one more thing. 44% of non-fossil fuel, that's another target. That's an obligation going to the energy sector as well. Mr. Anamizu, 44%, it's a very high target to clear. Some people say it's difficult, other people say it's easy. What do you say? 44%, it's a very large number to achieve. We are the primary institution, so grandfathering is what we do, but as a means to achieve this target, we do not own a lot of renewables, so we need to use carbon credits. Credits, how diverse they are going to be, it will be determined by international debate. But in any case, it's another burden economically for us, so it's still, we see this as a very high target to clear. Mr. Onoda, thank you very much for explaining how Bloomberg NEF came up with its forecast. And this is when the cheapest energy appears. But we believe 44% can be achieved. What do you say? At JERA, renewables need to be introduced even more. But to do that, variable and flexible energy or combined power generation need to be mixed or together with batteries. We need to focus more on those. But to achieve this Japan's energy mix target, the industry needs to restart the nuclear power plants to some extent. But currently, there is so much uncertainty. That's why it's making it so difficult to make a clear forecast. But to achieve 44%, we still need to reopen some of the nuclear power plants to achieve that target. Thank you, Mr. Takeuchi. Thank you for waiting. Japan's Renewable Energy's President and CEO. Now, looking at Japan's renewable goal, every year we see the same goal, but this time the government included this wording. They are going to include renewables as one of the main energy sources, but I see some contradiction there. What do you say? Renewable energy sources is what we develop at Japan Renewable Energy Corporation. In my capacity, I would say the CO2 Free energy sources, renewables, 44 or 45% combined, whether we can achieve or not. The target itself is not so ambitious. Some criticize it, especially in the West, because they are very close to achieving that level. But for the moment, whether we can achieve that level or not, according to Japan's basic energy policy, the renewables proportion 24 or 25%, I believe In 2030, I think we can achieve that. The problem is the nuclear power. Whether the nuclear proportion is going to go up to 24-25%, because right now 4 or 5% is the current proportion. Except for nuclear power plants that were determined to demolish, most of the continued power plants, nuclear power plants, need to be reopened. But I'm not an expert, but in 2030 we will not be able to open up all the nuclear power plants. So maybe 40% or so will be satisfied. But our forecast will be lower than that, at around 10% or so. We don't know. But in any case, that's how much we can only reopen the nuclear power plants to achieve such a proportion. But to meet the international promise, we need to introduce more renewables to fill the gap. But renewables, whether it's solar or wind, they take such a long time to develop. And all of a sudden, even if we change our policy, we do not have enough time until 2030. Even though we will be able to achieve the government's target, but we need to introduce twice more amount of renewables. So it's such a high target to clear. So I'm very concerned of the possibility, high likelihood of not achieving the target. Thank you very much. In 2030, the global milestone year, what kind of milestone, meaning beyond that is 2050 as an international milestone year. Let's look at the next slide. As people discuss in the case of Madrid, in Madrid is toward 2050, how the global warming gas can be reduced. This is, again, Bloomberg's forecast. Toward 2050, how the energy mix is going to change, especially the cheapest source. If it's introduced in the market, that's the basis of our forecast. Globally, if we look at the global model, in around 2050, half will be solar and wind. It's a very positive view, some of you may think. But if you look at the next page, then what about the emission? If you look at the emission from the energy sector, in around 2050, for the 2-degree target, we will be nowhere near to achieving 2-degree target. So by 2050, by introducing renewables, we will be a little bit closer to achieving the 2-degree target. But by 2050, we need to do more to reduce even more.
So Europe and then every country has to have the target of net zero by 2050, or there's a legislation, and that such countries are increasing. But then against this backdrop, into the future, the three companies, what about the decarbonization? Well, I'm very much interested in what kind of measures you're trying to take for the decarbonization. So I would like to ask three gentlemen about the strategy and also the willingness. If you can start, Mr. Takeuchi. Well, this is the Bloomberg's experts area, so I'm refrain from commenting anything. But then the 70% is going to be renewable, like close to 70% is going to be non-fossil and renewable energy by 2050. And well, amongst which the renewable is 60%, amongst close to 70% of non-fossil. Well, I think that is going to be the direction that we're going to take in Japan. Renewable energy introduction is slow to be introduced. That is because of the high cost. I think that's the major reason. And that might be Japan-specific reasons because of the land availability is very low, and also that the cost connection to the system is very high. And so the cost with regard to the facility and equipment is getting decreased every year. However, not as expected in terms of the total cost. So that's the introductory cost. So when it comes to the introductory cost, it is, well, during the fitting time, it is possible to recover that cost. And then beyond that, the characteristic of the renewable energy is that the marginal cost is zero. So that means when you're going to purchase the market, then if even with a 1 yen, it is okay. So when it comes to the cost perspective, in the long term, the fossil fuel will be reduced, and it is probably possible to overcome the fossil fuel. And then I think as electricity, the cost is going to go down. So Mr. Onoda, JERA company, not only introducing the fossil fuel, but I think that in Taiwan you have a project of the wind energy over the sea, and also that you have another project. What about by 2050? Well, of course, we are expecting a lot of the recommissions of the nuclear plant, but the JERA, well, we would like to proceed with the introduction of the renewable energy such as Formosa in Taiwan, and then also in Europe as well. And I think it is necessary for us to really look at that for not only for the offshore energy, but also to proceed with the other type of energy. But I think it is necessary to have a CO2 free electricity. I think that is a requirement in the society. Well, the social infrastructure that there's electricity and gas will be utilized, but if we will be able to provide CO2 free electricity, then I think it is possible for us to get closer to the target. But how to produce the CO2 free electricity, that is one of the problems that we have to really think. I don't think that it is possible to immediately materialize unless there is going to be a technological advancement such as CCS or the hydrogen ammonia, and unless such element can be incorporated, and unless that technology advancement will enable that, then we will not be able to have the CO2 free electricity. So I think it might be a little bit of the distant future. So I'd like to think how we're going to do. Thank you. Ms. Anamizu from the Tokyo Gas. The Tokyo Gas is the gas company. However, I think that you are also putting a lot of efforts into the electricity. What about like decarbonizations by 2050? Well, about the 44% of non-fossil of the 2040, that was a very high hurdle. 2030 is a high hurdle, I mentioned, but it's not that we are not going to do anything. In order to have the sustainable company growth, I think this 44% has to be cleared, and also this CO2 zero decarbonization by 2050, we also have to do and take countermeasures. And then last week on the 27th, we have announced the new vision by 2030, and then we gave a lot of challenges. And one is to have a CO2 net zero by 2050. That is what we announced. So that the Tokyo Gas or the city gas company considering the CO2 zero, well, I think that's a very great aspiration. But how are we going to meet this target? I think there are three possibilities. One is that well, there's a lot of room for us to use sophisticated energy, and also that is that the natural gas can be utilized, which has a less CO2. That's one. And then also to transform the energy to less CO2 energy. So of course the important thing is to use the renewable energy. So in our vision 2030, about 5 million kilowatts in renewable energy is what we would like to hold. That is what we announced. And then 70% from overseas and 30% from domestic sources. So by materializing that, we would like to introduce the renewable energy, and at the same time, as Mr. Onoda mentioned, like that the emitted CO2, how are we going to recover, or how we will be able to fix and reuse? the emitted CO2, the energy. Well, the natural gas is being utilized, but I think that we are going to put more emphasis on the customers and then thus have a CO2 emission. But I think it is necessary to recover that and then to utilize, reutilize with a new advanced technology. And also, I think it is necessary to have a coordination power to utilize the renewable energy. That the feed-in tariff is going to change the feed-in premium, so that the renewable energy producing company has to have some kind of coordination power. That is like a co-generation, so that to have electricity source which has a high mobility, that will be one of the very important capacity. Well, I think the various technology is possible, but we would like to have a live polling. So could you please use your cell? What is the most important innovation to realize the decarbonization? Like there's 4. The hydrogen that was mentioned by Mr. Onoda and Mr. Anamizu, and also the batteries, like in order to stabilize the renewable energy. It's going to be a very important source and technology. And also the CCS, that to capture the carbon, and also to embed, and also the 4th will be the renewable energy. Which do you think is very important? So this is what I'd like to ask to the audience, and then afterwards I would like to ask to the 3 people. Well, we have results here. It's kind of moving, but when it comes to the renewable energy, it seems that there's a lot of polls. I'm a little bit surprised. That is towards the decarbonization of the 2050. So between 2030 2050, what will be necessary? And our company is also making some research, and also there's a biogas, which was not in this answer. Well, in this selection. Well, we have only 3 more minutes, so we would like to close the polling. But 48% for the renewable energy, the largest, and then the batteries 21%, 22%, and also the hydrogen, which is very much emphasized by Japan, is 18%, and the CCS was the least. Mr. Takeuchi. Well, the result is that the renewable energy, high expectation towards that. Well, thank you. I would like to say thank you. But for us, we are specified in the renewable energy. So, like when we consider about to meet the 2-degree pathway, I think the renewable energy is the only answer. That is what we believe. So, from that perspective, the innovations of the renewable energy, what is that? Well, I think it is already established in terms of the technology. So what shall I say? I don't know whether there's something new, totally new will come out. However, maybe like a low cost and high efficiency might be the progress. But the renewable energy, the cost, and another aspect which inhibits the introduction is that it is not stable. So in that time, I think the batteries or that the energy storage. So from our perspective, I think that the batteries and also the hydrogen, the technological innovation is already available. However, the introduction is yet to progress because of the high cost, but we hope that it is going to see some advancement. Okay, thank you very Mr. Anamizu. There was a reference of the batteries, but it was not the number 1 in the polling. Well, amongst these 4 answers, I think the hydrogen and also the CO2 capturing. Well, the hydrogen. Well, the green hydrogen is the direction. So using the renewable energy, how to convert that to the hydrogen? There's like a water to convert to the water and hydrolysis. But then I think how to capture the hydrogen. Well, maybe there's a technology that will be able to capture the hydrogen out of the atmosphere. And also that the hydrogen and CO2, and then to have the reactions and also to have the synthetic methane. I think it is possible because it is the CO2 is captured. So the synthetic methane even though we are synthesizing the methane, I think it is going to be a kind of a nominal CO2. So overseas, like there's a lot of renewable energy, and then the producing the hydrogen, and if the CO2 can be captured, then with a it is possible to bring it to Japan the synthetic methane to convert to the LNG. So the methanation, for the methanations, I am focusing on that, and I think that there will be a technological advancement.
Lastly, Mr. Onoda, I also believe that renewables are very important, but in Japan, increasing renewables in Japan is going to be a bit difficult because of the small land size and so on. But according, as Anamizu said, in overseas, there are many other places that are more optimal for introducing renewables. So generating hydrogen in those places might be good, which can lead to CO2 free hydrogen. And I have this proposal to make. Hydrogen can be transported. You can transport hydrogen as it is, or you can convert it into ammonia or in other form to transport. And you transport it and burn it at facilities. Then we can secure renewable energies in Japan and use it. And we will have a CO2-free energy source to use. That is quite possible to do. At JERA in Nagoya district, we inject hydrogen into gas pipes and conducting tests to extract, and we burn ammonia with a coal-fired energy. It's a green ammonia consortium that we joined, and we aren't going to proceed with such testings. CO2 at the source will be left for some other occasions to discuss. When we have a CO2 energy sources, then when it's available, it's quite possible for Japan to make use of that. Wonderful panelists, thank you so much. And let's keep up a great expectation for Japanese companies. Thank you so much.